Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on this classic wooden motor cruiser currently here in Tenedos Bay, Desolation Sound, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all the while fixing it up for some pretty ambitious cruising. If that's the sort of thing that you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. Well, yes, Desolation Sound is a long way from Genoa Bay, where we talked to you last. It's been quite a week. Ran over to Vancouver right off the bat to help out my friend Lloyd with his van, because he's going to go off van lifing and hang out in Vancouver for a little bit and get some work done, as you can see over my shoulder, on the upper Helm. Not anywhere close to done, because there's lots to it. Anyway, let's jump up and have a look. Well, good morning, and we're on our way over to Vancouver. Across the strait today. It's a perfect crossing. It's pretty early, but I didn't want to check in with you any earlier because I didn't want to wake you all up. But left Genoa Bay this morning early and fueled up in Maple Bay, and we're just heading out towards Boiler Pass. Well, we'll cross the Strait of Juan de Fuca over to Vancouver. Crossing the strait is normally, it's something that's, you don't just do every day. You need good weather, and we have absolutely perfect conditions for today. I'd almost wish it was a little breezier because it's still so very, very hot, 35 degrees today. But a little bit of breeze definitely helps that out. Okay then, off we go. Well, we're having a pretty easygoing crossing, about a third of the way across. You can see the interesting color of the water here is from the silt that's washing out of the Fraser River. And a little while back I crossed the line between the deep blue water of the Pacific Ocean and the silt water out of the Fraser, and it was quite distinctive. I just couldn't get the camera quick enough. Anyway, we're, as I said, about a third of the way across, and there's the mainland up ahead. Here we are about to cross back out of the silt. Well, that's set really nicely. It's crowded here. It's crowded. One nice thing about the camera is that I can keep an eye on how close all the boats are. Technically, we should all swing together. I anchored in 15 feet of water and I put out about 70 feet, so that's better than 4 and 1. There's quite a strong flood right now and a bit of wind, but I gave it 1,000 RPM set and it didn't budge. So, feeling good. Off to meet Lloyd at the pub right here. Comfortably anchored in Falls Creek in Vancouver. You can see the mass exodus of boats heading out into English Bay this evening for the fireworks. I'm quite content to stay right here. And it's a beautiful, bright Vancouver morning. I must say, anchored here in Falls Creek has been very, very pleasant. Been here a couple of days. Well, one of the great things I'm able to do while I'm here is visit up with my good friend Lloyd and Owen as well, both of which you may know from previous episodes of the show. Lloyd, of course, very kindly gifted me a poem earlier this year. Anyway, so I'm going to spend the next couple of days hanging out with them and hanging out, doing a little work on Lloyd's van, or at least giving him some guidance on what he could do with some of the wiring. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun, and looking forward to some more. No electric trolling motor for the Vancouver dinghy docks. It's also why I brought the rattier dinghy. Theft here can be a bit of a problem. Good morning, Lloyd.
Good morning, sir.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
All right, can I throw some of this stuff in here?
Yeah, sure.
Well, this last week I've been helping out my friend Lloyd. You all remember Lloyd of Poem with his Sprinter van, because if you remember, he is now a van lifer, or it basically all begins today. So he's been here in Vancouver converting his van over the last couple of months, and I just came up this last week to do electrical and help out with some of the other systems, do a little bit of carpentry. Anyway, he is all set to go. So he's going around America, and I'm back to cruising, and well, hopefully making the upper Helm while cruising. Stuff like that. And so here's the bulk of what I've been up to this last week. Setting up the main, mostly the high current power, well actually almost all the power system for it. Nice big inverter, battery switch, big bus bars, a solar charge controller, a DC-DC controller to control from the van's alternator, a whole bunch of fuses for that. He's got 2 now, but he's gonna have 4 Battleborn lithium. Really nice setup. Anyway, threw it all in behind some plexiglass. I thought that worked pretty tidy. Solar on the roof, Pepwave, which is the LTE Wi-Fi amplifier on the roof, as well as Starlink. And then in here, the main panels. And I don't know if you can see in this light, worked out really quite nicely. Tidy enough for me. All right then. Oh yeah, I whipped this up for him this morning. Yeah, that'll be nice to get some oil on it. Okay, pretty much wrapped up this little adventure. Okay, so here's a very preliminary test fit. Oh, that's convenient. This is really cool, really cool. the upper helm is sort of held in place with zip ties and stuff, and it's the process of getting that final alignment, making the angle right, scribing it to the deck, getting it to be the right location above the deck back there. I should probably explain that there is going to be an 1.5-inch mahogany curb across the edge of the deck before the deck rolls over in the future, and that's what that extra 1.5 inches is for. The 3/4 is a shimming block. Just getting everything to line up. It's actually very, very good. You can see all the alignment there is good. The alignment against the deck is relatively good. Everything is pretty good. I have to calculate this bevel so that these will meet together properly. I then have to scribe it to the deck, get it to sit down on the deck. It all starts with the windshield. The side panels then meet that. And of course, there's going to have to be a bevel cut up here. So this will sit against the windshield, and then the windshield gets trimmed wherever this is going to be. It's going to be further out. It'll be more like that somewhere. And then this will be rounded over, and this will be screwed in on the end. Everything has just got to be made to fit. The other thing is the whole windshield is going to move forward quite a bit. But I can't do it just yet because I'm running into that handrail. But that's okay because it's all going to get narrowed. So it's just a lot of fiddling and fiddling. And I can't remove material too haphazardly because it's quite complex to put it back. All right, I've had to put just a little tension on this corner to keep these from twisting just a little bit. So now I'm going to determine the angle to cut the bevel in here. And I'm going to do that by setting this big framing square up against the boat. So I have, this is accurate across the boat, athwartships, and then I'll lock that in as best I can and set up to measure the angle at this angle between this. And keeping an eye on all of this. That's locked in there, that's locked in there. This can come right about right there. Ha! Okay, let's set up the saw. Close enough for me. All right, and well, that looks basically, well, I can't hold it properly, but I think it's just perfect. Okay, now to cut the scribe on the bottom, a little more complex. Okay, now I'll reset the bevel after taking the battery out of the saw for the other bevel, which is significantly steeper. And this is the bevel to cut the scribe at the bottom. And this is a little bit arbitrary. Basically, if you saw, I scribed the windshield inside and out, and then I also took a bevel measurement, and that's really just as a check. And we'll see if this actually works at all. The thing is, all I have to do is get this relatively close, and then I can use the plane and or sandpaper to really ferret the last little bit. Okay, now this is a complex cut. You probably can't see this line, but it's a bevel, but it's also a curve because of the curve of the deck. And again, it's just got to get close. Now, normally for a curve, I would lower the blade. In other words, drop the shoe or the plate or whatever the heck this is called down so that the blade was shorter so it could go around corners easily. But this is a very gradual curve, and you have a lot more control when the blade is longer. So I'm going to shoot it with the full length blade. Oh, I have to remember to take this off. Don't want the ripping guide on. That would have really made a mess of things. There we go. And it would be happy if I toss the battery back in. Let's go. Okay, so I just wanted to get started and have a look to see if it's popping out in exactly the right spot on the other side. Love it. Very nice. Woohoo! I don't know if you can see, but this is the back side of the cut, and it's very uniformly cutting, just offset from the pencil line on the other side. Feeling pretty good about this. Okay, so the one we just cut is in place, and we're looking together for the first time. That looks just fine to me. Let's have a look on the outside. Very nice. Very, 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 very nice. Okay, excellent. It's a better cut than the condition of the wheelhouse roof is. Anyway, let's do the other one. Let's hope it goes as well. Perfect offset from the back side. Woo! Okay, I'll just set it back against itself for a moment and get some zip ties on. Now we're also able to move it forward now because it'll fit between the handrails. With the front windshield sitting where it's supposed to, I can now trim the bottom edge of the side panel to bring it down in line. And my intention was to line up the top of the window with the top of the window. So that's really quite easy to do because this is the curve of the top of the window. And if I take my tape measure, I basically can just come down about, remember I'm cutting this off at perpendicular to this line. So this measures vertically. So I'm going to say, pretty close to 1.5 inches, which is a magic measurement for me because 1.5 inches is the extra block I have down here. And by trimming off 1.5 inches off of here, just to this point here, it gives me some more meat in through here to be able to cut that curve to match the new extension of the cabin top, which is going to happen. Because of course I'm nervous that this point here might end up above the curve, but I don't believe it's going to anymore. This cut is not critical at all. The only trick is to make sure I don't cut through because this will eventually be cut to match that curve. All right? Beauty. Okay, so I'm very, very pleased with the way this is all fitting together. The last thing to do is to trim the top of the windshield. I left a lot of excess material here. So for starters, I know I'm going to trim it about there. I'm actually going to give myself a strong, let's say an 1/8 of an inch too much, because once this is all trimmed a little bit, I don't mind bringing that down about 1/8 of an inch to match this. I do not want to be planing down the laminations if it's unblended. So the other thing I want to do is I want the top of the windshield to be on the extension of the plane of the top of the side. In other words, because I'm going to put a rather large piece of wood in both directions as a cap, as a handrail, I want that to be a tidy miter up here. And if they're on a different plane, that gets to be very, very complex. So I can see this is still going uphill just a little bit at this point. So it does mean that the handrail on the front of the windshield will be tipped back ever so slightly, which is just fine by me. So if I sort of guess where that end of the plane is, or end of that alignment, I'm gonna say about there is just fine. And now I can cut that across right at that line, and it's ready for the big handrail that'll go on. Whew. I can't say this isn't a little bit stressful. Of course, because of the massive amount of equity already in the wood that's up here. Well, hello there and welcome to this week's Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week. Shot this week in Tenedos Bay in Desolation Sound. Absolutely magical spot. Let's get straight to the beer. I found this really interesting. The label definitely caught my eye, and it's called the Victorious Weissenbach. I'm assuming that's how that's pronounced. Anyway, it's a strong dark ale, and you know, dark beers aren't always my thing, but when they're good, they're very, very good. Well, it's so nice to be up in Desolation and finally getting some sort of traditional summer cruising in. Not that all the cruising I've been doing so far hasn't been absolutely fabulous. And the neat thing about that is I'm meeting up with some old friends. I've caught up with Lloyd. We're cruising up here together, as well as some other friends that are cruising up here as well. So it's been really, really awesome. All right. So Victorious Weissenbach. It's quite dark. It's also quite strong. I like it. I like it a lot. Very interesting. Okay, let's jump right in. Last week's winner of a totally random, just picked any comment at random, because that's the way we're doing it for now, is Marcus Johnson. So Marcus Johnson, congratulations. You've won yourself a Travels with Geordie t-shirt. Get a hold of me by sending me an email at swag@travelswithgeordie.com and we'll set you up. Cheers. This is growing on me. Okay, I'd like to welcome aboard a new patron. Thank you ever so much. Sharon McDaniel. I really appreciate you coming aboard as a new Patreon. But it is strong. Okay, just before we go, where I would normally announce the word of the week, how about we just shelf this word of the week thing just for at least another week? If that doesn't spark debate, I don't know what would. So if you have something to say about the word of the week, I know some people don't like it, and actually quite a few people do miss it and did like it. I'm still a bit torn, so let me know what you think, and we'll discuss this further. In the meantime, as you know, if you'd like to win a Travels Geordie t-shirt, write anything, and I'll pick at random over the next 2 weeks worth of comments, and if I pick you, you'll have won yourself a Travels with Geordie t-shirt. Cheers, and see you next week.